Hi guys, Erin here at Queen Bee Tarot. Thank you so much for joining me. This is our astrology forecast for the week of September 6th through 12th. And I did have a viewer ask me recently if these astrology forecasts are for everyone or for maybe just a couple of sun signs, or how does this work? And the way that I do my forecast is I talk about the transits of the planets. So transits are movements. And what I'm talking about is how the planets are moving in the sky and how they relate to us, in the sense that they set the stage for our interactions. They offer opportunities for growth. They present challenges for us to overcome. And so these astrology reports for the week are for everyone. So I will begin. The focus again this week is going to be on relationship dynamics, you guys. And earlier in the year, I made a few videos talking about how this is kind of like the hardest year at university you've ever had. The classes are the hardest, the tests are the hardest, it's the most challenging, the most emotionally and mentally draining. 2020 is a really difficult year. And during the end of the summer, it was kind of like a break in between semesters. And what we've got right now is we've got the beginning to the end of the 2020 challenges. So, in this semester, school is in session, and we are starting off with some pop quizzes to test our understanding and our growth up to this point and how much we are willing to listen. So, within relationship dynamics, I made a lot of notes. There's a lot of stuff going on. Being misunderstood or misunderstanding others is going to be the trigger. And when our emotions get triggered, because of the relationship between the moon and Mars, we are going to be propelled to action. So the challenge is going to be checking ourselves. The challenge and the best possible way to approach the astrology for the rest of the year and life in general, honestly, is if we feel emotionally triggered, to pause and to think and to always ask for clarification. So again, being misunderstood or misunderstanding others is going to be the trigger of most of the conflict coming up. The other major dynamic happening is the use or misuse of power. That's another huge thing happening. We have a sort of long-term transit between Pluto and Venus. They are in opposition. And when we have two planets in opposition, it's like having a mirror shown up between the energy of the two planets. And the mirror is going to reflect reality, but we may not like what we see. And so what's happening this week is in my mind, it kind of draws a parallel to a saying in NA, and that is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Now that quote has actually been misquoted to a lot of other people in the past, like Benjamin Franklin or Mark Twain or whatever, but it's not. It's from a woman who wrote things for the NA and the AA flyers. And honestly, it is. If we are feeling insane right now, the underlying reason is because the same thing is happening and we keep expecting different results. So the key is to figure out where we're going wrong, see if we can make a change, see if we can approach situations with a different mindset. And the best mindset to approach situations right now is one of patience, listening, and compassion. In relationships, we may assume that we have the other person figured out. We may assume that we know everything about what's going on. And from that assumption, we act in confidence. And we think that what we're doing is the best thing we could possibly do. We might think we are being the best listener we could possibly be. Personally, in my own relationships, I have learned recently that I wasn't actually being the best listener that I could be. I was acting from a place of confidence. And from my actions, from my perspective that I was holding strong in, I created a conflict. The source of this conflict, the other person felt misunderstood. That's what I'm talking about. And so when we have this dynamic within relationships, the best thing to do is ask for clarification. Find out really how the other person feels and what it is that we did to make them feel in conflict. So what we've got going on astrologically this week, I want to recap by reminding you guys that Mercury went into Libra on Saturday. And Mercury is the planet that represents the realm of the mind, communication, how we talk to ourselves and how we talk to others. It also represents written word, contracts, that sort of thing. And Mercury does pretty well in Libra. Libra is the only sign in the zodiac. Here's a neat fact for you. It's the only sign in the zodiac represented by an inanimate object, not an animal, not a person. It's the scales. And the scales represent balance, justice, weighing things out. So when Mercury is in Libra, it does give the effect of being able to understand the other person's point of view a little bit better. It emphasizes and nurtures the ability to relate, to understand, to be compassionate, and to really listen. So the energy is being set for the entire month of September for us to learn how to relate well to others a little bit better. The challenge with Mercury in Libra is that we may weigh things out so much that we can't actually decide on a direction. That's okay. Mars is going retrograde right now, which means our ability to move forward is actually going to be pulled back. So while Mercury is in Libra, definitely use this time to rethink how you're approaching communication, how you're approaching relationships, and how much you truly understand about yourself. This is a time to really weigh things out. And when it comes to those relationship dynamics, on Sunday we have the moon conjunct Mars. So the moon is our emotional state, and Mars is how we propel ourselves, how our ego interacts with the world around us. And when the moon is in the exact same spot as Mars, that is where we feel emotionally triggered, and then boom, we take an action. And so that's why I'm saying the challenge is to pause, think, ask for clarification. The moon is also in a difficult relationship with Mercury, which means that there might be a disconnect between our emotions and our thoughts, our feeling side and our intellectual side. So the challenge during this time is to pause and reflect as well on how we feel. Rather than speaking right away, take a minute, take a break, and reflect within your own space in a quiet place of reflection. See if you can better sort out what you really think or how you really feel. The moon is in Taurus. It just moved into Taurus today. And when the moon moves in Taurus, it's actually a great time of grounding, centering, focusing on basic needs, food, rest, water, that sort of thing, really grounding out. So that's awesome. So the stage is being set for if we are really willing to listen to our partners, or, when I talk about relationships, I'm not just talking about, romantic relationships. I'm talking about anybody in your household, children, for example, loved ones. We could talk about parents. Relationships could be with people we work with, our boss, our neighbors, our friends. So relationships really is a huge general span of things. It's how we relate to others generally. So when we talk about relationships, I do mean all those things. It could be anything. On Sunday today as well, the Venus moves into Leo. And Venus has just come out of Cancer, and Venus is how we relate to others. Another emphasis on relationships. Libra and Venus are paired together in astrology. Venus is ruled by Libra. Libra is ruled by Venus. So Venus moving into Leo, is coming out of feeling really, really, really deep feelings and emotions and moving into a place of a little bit more confidence. When Venus is in Leo, which is the sign of the lion, we are a little bit more bold and brave. We might be more willing to reach out and connect with someone when in the last little while we might have been a little bit more hesitant and shy to express our emotions. Venus is going to be very gregarious and generous and perhaps even boastful in Leo. And so that is going to add an energy of our egos being a little bit more boosted. So again, within relationships, don't assume that you know everything. Don't assume that you are totally sorted and it's the other person that has a problem, because in fact, it might actually be you. Yes, overconfidence in relationships will lead to conflict. So please accept that you have much to learn. It's hard on the ego, but we always have so much to learn. We're never done learning. On Monday, the moon is going to join up with Uranus. And Uranus is the planet of change, upheaval, thinking outside of the box. So we either go with change or we get knocked over by it, right? And so when the moon is in the same spot as Uranus, sometimes change makes us feel emotional, like I was happy where I was. Why are things changing? So the challenge on Monday might be tempering our own emotions if change feels like it's happening too fast. So again, if you feel tested, if you feel challenged, stop and think. And the other thing too is that while the moon is in Taurus, that is a sign that if your emotions are feeling a little bit out of whack, the best way to get yourself into a place of feeling sorted and centered again, let's think about Taurus. So that's going to be meeting those basic needs of food, water, rest, good company. So make sure to look after your basic needs this week, of course, always. Wednesday. This is a big week because Wednesday is when Mars goes retrograde. And Mars is the planet of ego, will, drive, how we propel ourselves out into the world. And when we experience any kind of a hiccup or a challenge or an obstacle, Mars talks about how we deal with that. How do we deal with those challenges when they happen? There are a lot of exact angles on the day that Mars goes into retrograde. And so I wanted to talk about the stage that's being set with that astrological event. There's a couple of major oppositions. So oppositions are straight across the sky from each other, and they create a little bit of a mirror reflection, and it's an opportunity to reflect. The two oppositions that we have that are really big are Mercury in opposition to Chiron. So Mercury is how we think and talk and relate, and then Chiron is the wounded healer. So in our minds, we are going to have reflected our pain. And it's up to us how we deal with it. If we stuff it, we're going to miss the opportunity to grow. So if you find that you have pain coming up in your head, the best thing to do is let it speak to you and see what you can do about learning more about it and how to heal yourself, how to nurture those basic needs and meet those needs in the most healthy way possible. The other opposition happening is Sun. Our Sun is in opposition to Neptune. And you know, I talk about oppositions creating a reflection, but honestly, Neptune is the only planet that actually muddies a reflection. So when the Sun is in opposition to Neptune, we're going to see two things. We are going to see the ideals that we hope for and that we're aiming for, and we might feel a little fuzzy about whether or not we're reaching them. So it's a great time of taking stock of what it is that your goals are. If it's personal growth, then you might be evaluating how close you are to your goals and what needs to be done to get yourself a little bit closer. And then Pluto has been in this opposition to Venus, which is really, really, really exposing power dynamics if they are in balance or if they're out of balance. And a huge dynamic with all the astrology that's happening this fall is the use and abuse of power. And when Mars hits this retrograde action, it's going to be like this whole backflow of karma. So if you've been acting in a vengeful or not an honorable way, if you have been cutting corners or hurting others or, basically not acting from a place of honor or respect, when Mars goes retrograde, it's going to be a time of all that karma coming back to you. So heads up, if you feel like you are experiencing an onslaught of life lessons over the next little while, be patient, be humble, and try and figure out what it is that life is trying to teach you, because honestly, it is just a growth experience or opportunity. It's a growth opportunity. We are not meant to live in suffering. So if it feels like we're suffering, a couple things to consider. Are we being a little bit insane by doing the same thing and expecting different results? Are we acting from a place of ego and not truly listening, assuming that we know everything, but in fact we have something to learn? So these would be the themes, the challenges this week. And then on Saturday, so remember how we've had all these retrograde planets this year? On Saturday, Jupiter goes direct. And at the end of the month, Saturn's going to go direct as well. So we're having a lot of these outer planets starting to be unlocked from these holding positions of backwards movement and then anchoring us to the past, right? There have been so many life lessons coming up, so many teaching moments. Yeah, thanks universe, right? A lot of us are like so done learning at this point, but there's hope in the sense that a lot of these planets are starting to unlock from that position and move forwards. And the first one to do that is Jupiter, which is great because Jupiter is a lovely, light-hearted planet of abundance and prosperity, good luck, good fortune, all that kind of stuff. So Jupiter being the first to unlock and start to move forwards is a great positive sign. So what I'd like to do is just sum up by saying this week is going to be full of challenges. Those challenges are all going to be about relationship dynamics. The trigger is going to be misunderstandings or feeling misunderstood. When our emotions are triggered, we might be propelled to quick action, but that is the challenge, to pull back and listen and ask for clarification. And then with Jupiter starting to move forwards, on Saturday, what we've got is we've got a light at the end of the tunnel that I want to just let you know is there. That good luck is going to start coming. Good fortune. You might start hearing back from those job applications. You might start feeling like those obstacles are starting to unblock. Mind you, this is a slow moving planet, so it does take a while to start really having an effect. But I want you to know, yes, Saturday, Jupiter goes direct. So, I'd like to close with the Serenity Prayer. I mentioned earlier that the quote of the definition of insanity came from N.A. and a woman by the name of Brown who wrote that quote. And I wanted to close with the Serenity Prayer because it's great for everyone. You don't have to believe in God. You don't have to believe in anything like that. Just, it's basically surrendering to the fact that we don't know everything. The Serenity Prayer is, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Blessed be. This is Erin at Queen Bee Tarot. Thank you so much for joining me for your astrology update for the week. If you have any questions, please do comment below or send me a message. I love talking about astrology and tarot. Like and follow for all of my astrology updates, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Wishing you all the best. Bye.